Good morning everyone, welcome back to the workshop. I'll say workshop, we're outside today because we've got a little ongoing project. I've got a fair amount of sand and cement to mix up, so I thought I'd put this out there for all you DIYers and share how I mix all my sand and cement, and I try to make it as easy as possible and reduce the amount of manual handling involved. All the materials are quite heavy, so I tend to get everything in place like a day or two before I need to use it. That way I've used a lot of energy bringing it all round, and I've got some recovery time before I actually start the project. Tools required: you'll need a wheelbarrow, some safety gear, a mixer drill, a paddle to go in the mixer drill, a shovel, some kind of container to mix up in. I've got a 50-litre bucket, and also a bucket trowel or some kind of item to scrape out any residual cement left in your bucket. Now I'm mixing quite a lot, so I use this 50-litre bucket. However, if you've just got a small amount to mix, you can get away with just using a builder's bucket and a small paddle on a normal drill. However, if you do burn the motor out, don't blame me. It was your own fault for trying to do too much. So here's my dedicated mixer drill. I've had it for years. Made by DeWalt in the USA. Most things now are probably made in China, so that shows you the age of this thing. But he's lasted me just fine. If you do have a big project, it's well worth just buying yourself a decent mixer drill. You can pick them up for about £60–70, and it will save you so much work. You can see from this that mine's got a keyed chuck, so for this I need a hex shank. Modern dedicated mixer drills, more often than not, will have a different type of chuck. So the paddle mixer you'd need for one of those will have like a screw thread on the end of the paddle mixer rather than the hex. You might be thinking to yourself that you don't want to shell out your hard-earned cash on equipment like this, but if you look at it another way, if you were to pay someone to do the job for you, or you have to spend hours of back-breaking work mixing up your sand and cement, to be honest, this is a no-brainer, this sort of setup. This will save you hours and hours of work. Alternatively, you can pick things like this up second hand. However, you don't know how well they've been used, cared for, abused, so there's no guarantee they'll last you. If you've got a lot of work to do, I'd strongly suggest you just go out and buy a brand new one. Just in case you were wondering why you need a dedicated mixer drill for this sort of thing and not a standard drill that you'd use for drilling holes in your wall. These have got higher quality components and they've got massive torque inside, and you need that massive torque in order to be able to mix your cement with a great paddle on the end. Whenever making a mortar mix, I would strongly recommend you get some of this stuff. It's called Plasticizer. You're probably thinking, what does Plasticizer do? There you go, that's what it says on the back. In layman's terms, it improves your mix, makes it easier to work with, and it also gives you a longer working time for your cement. It means it doesn't go off so quick. Many years ago, people used to use washing up liquid instead of this stuff. I wouldn't advise you to do that because it weakens your cement. Let's clean that off here. That's better. On the back of the container they even give you a quantity guide and also the amount of plasticizer you need for the quantity that you're using. It's pretty much foolproof. I've been doing this sort of thing for a number of years, and so this is the quantities that I use. I just go with a splash in a bucket full like that. You don't need too much. If you put too much in there, it won't go hard, and it will also weaken the strength of your sand and cement mix. Before we even start, we want to make sure that we've got a nice flat surface. and there's no stones or anything sticking up underneath that are going to break through the bottom of our mixing container. For bedding in my slabs, we're going to use a 4:1 sand cement mix. I'm hoping you can see that with this light. If you was making a render mix to render a wall or a bricklayer mix, you'd use a fine sand. As I'm using this mix to bed in some slabs, I need a much harsher, grittier mix. This much more coarse sand gives it a lot more strength. I was going to try and explain to you how I do this, but it's easier just to show you in real time. We're going to do a dry mix first, and then we're going to add water. Mustn't forget my ear protection. Here we go. You need to mix the sand and the cement thoroughly. So if you feel you need to, dig down to the bottom and just bring those unmixed bits of sand and cement up. Then go again. Once you're satisfied, it's time to add some water. So how much water do you add? Well, that depends how thick or sloppy you want your mix, and also how dry your sand mix is to start with. If this sand had been left outside in the wet, this would be soaking wet, so you may need to use just the tiniest amount of water. However, this is very dry, so I just chuck a nice load in. It's down to you to judge the amount of water that you need for your mix. That's really all there is to it. I've shown you that mixing process almost in real time, and that's your result. It's a good mix ready to use. It saved loads of work and it saved loads of stress on my body as well. So that's why I would highly recommend, if you've got some serious DIY projects to do, buy yourself a mixer drill, save yourself a load of stress and save yourself a load of hard work. Doesn't matter how hard you try, you're always going to get a little bit like that which is not mixed, but that's fine. You just mix it up in the wheelbarrow. I put it in a wheelbarrow because I've got to transport it to another part of the garden to use it, and also to give you an idea of how much mix I've managed to make in about 5 minutes. The alternative is to mix it all up with a shovel, and that puts a lot of strain on your back before you've even started your job. That method I just showed you, you can also mix up concrete if you need to put some footings in. You just change the mix slightly, and you'll also put the stones in last, and don't mix it too dry. You'd be surprised what you can achieve all on your own. So that brings this little film to an end. Hopefully that's given you some ideas on how you can mix sand and cement with very little stress and quite quickly. Got a few more projects on the go, and I'll show you them as I go along, so feel free to pop back anytime. Thanks for watching the workshop. Catch you later.